I'm gonna need you to hold on to your butts because it's Big News Wednesday. It is, in fact, Big News Wednesday. Such a Big News Wednesday that it has knocked Jayar off his game. No, but no, we're gonna. You know what we're gonna do? You just finished a whole show, and I don't think people acknowledge often enough that doing the watch list and then immediately transitioning to doing the damage report is a big ask. So thank you for doing that. I think a lot of people just take it for granted. That's actually a lot, but so thank you for that. And we're gonna have a little bit of fun. I've got some topics in here. They're gonna lighten things up a little bit. We're gonna get to make fun of some bad people. I'm gonna try to make you feel a little bit better, Jayar. But thank you.
You know what? I would appreciate that, John. As I mentioned to you before we came on, it's been 2 straight nights of literal not sleeping. Just saying.
Okay,
I mean,
well, then you should just why don't you sleep then? Like you had this idea that you didn't need to sleep anymore. You tested it, which I respect the scientific method. But it didn't turn out to be a good idea. So go back to sleep, you dummy.
Hey, don't test me. I have a pillow right here. In fact, it's this one.
Yeah, he's about to cry from delirium. Anyway, everybody, thank you for being here. We do have a lot to talk about, including the Mar-a-Lago scandal going nuclear, sort of. Big news for Steve Bannon, and for those who want con artists to actually suffer some consequences. Dr. Oz making news for all the wrong reasons. Animal news coming up. If you're watching the full extended show in the aftermath, we're gonna have some animal news from around the nation and a little bit of fun. I decided not to make Jayar listen to me rant about Rings of Power, but we will be talking about a crossover between politics and pop culture in the aftermath. So everyone,
Rings of Power, is this like the latest version of Lord of the Rings or something? It's like part 5 or something? It sounds like it.
Kind of is, but so you're not familiar with Rings of Power?
Not at all.
It's a TV show.
Is this like a new gymnastics event?
That's actually not bad. They should name it that. There should be a crossover between those two. Just elves doing crazy flips and stuff. Anyway, I said I'm not gonna talk about Rings of Power. Maybe in the aftermath, we'll see. But anyway, for right now, for all of you watching, please hit the like button if you're on a platform where that's a thing that you can physically do. And if you wanna send us any comments, tweets, or super chats, Jayar and I will respond as we go. But with all that said, Jayar, are you ready to talk about some
I'm ready. I just released my butt. I'm ready to go.
Okay, no, you gotta keep holding it. There's still so much to come. But anyway, let's jump into this first topic. They told us that Donald Trump had some nuclear documents and he denied it. And who do you think ended up being right? He had a nuclear document, specifically, apparently a document that has to do with some mysterious anonymous nation's nuclear capabilities and nuclear defense readiness, which maybe, from our point of view, is less immediately damaging to the US than him having documents about our military or nuclear readiness, I guess. But from the point of view of that other nation, or since it hasn't been identified, any other nation right now, they have got to be reeling from this news being released. The idea that Donald Trump took documents about another nation's nuclear capabilities to Mar-a-Lago so he could just have it is not good news. Also, probably not good news for Donald Trump, because this is as serious as we thought it might be. Anyway, to give you an idea of how sensitive these documents were, some of them detail top secret US operations so closely guarded that many senior national security officials are kept in the dark about them. These are people, aides to the president on topics of national security. They're not allowed to see these things. Only the president, some members of his cabinet, or a near cabinet level official could authorize other government officials to even know details about these special access programs. And documents about some of these operations require special clearances on a need to know basis. So just simply having top secret clearance as a general rule is not enough to see these. Some are limited to as few as a couple dozen government personnel authorized to know even about the existence of these operations. We're not even talking about like operational details of them. Simply the fact that they exist at all is so closely guarded that only a couple of dozen people even know it. Records that deal with such programs are kept under a literal, not metaphoric, lock and key, until they get to Mar-a-Lago, and then the lock and the key go out the door, literally. Almost always in a secure, compartmented information facility with a designated control officer to keep careful tabs on their location. In this case, though, they were stored at Mar-a-Lago with uncertain security, which, by the way, calling the security uncertain is a generous move on the part of the Washington Post there, and apparently had been kept there for about 18 months. And I will remind you, as I alluded to in the beginning, when we initially had the leak, which admittedly, there was no evidence of this when they told us that these had to do with documents involving nuclear programs, nuclear weapons. They just said that it was. Donald Trump responded by saying, nuclear weapons issue is a hoax, just like Russia was a capital H hoax. 2 impeachments were a capital H hoax. The Mueller investigation, total capital H hoax, and much more. Hoax. Donald Trump, you're a hoax. Honestly, he was lying. He knew that he took it. If you took nuclear documents, you would definitely know that you had it. He held on to it after transferring other documents back to the government, and he lied to us, and way more importantly, he lied to his supporters and defenders, because they went out there. They've now spent a couple of weeks implying that there's no evidence it's about the nuclear program. This is just letters to Kim Jong-un or whatever. No, he lied to them. He knew all along it was about nuclear programs, and he left them out there to defend him and look like fools after the details would eventually leak. Jayar, what do you make of this?
Well, first of all, about those folks that look like fools now, zero sympathy for them. They know better as well, just like he also knew better. So if you're going out and you're going to defend Donald Trump, these are the same folks in 2015 when they're running against him when it came to Republican primaries. I talked about how he's a disaster. He's a danger to the country. If you follow this guy, we're gonna be destroyed. This guy is a clown. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an egomaniac. All he cares about is trying to usurp some kind of power and benefit himself. They said all of that stuff. That was very true. But once he's in power, suddenly those things completely go out the window. They know better. So no sympathy for them looking like fools now. Because by the way, I also already saw Marco Rubio still defending Donald Trump. Because that's just how they are. There's followers of their leader, of their MAGA king. Now, by the way, this threw me off a little bit. I'm thinking, I went through all of these details about how they keep these documents literally under lock and key. They keep them in a dark room, and many folks who probably would be some kind of an assistant to the president in decision making, maybe based off of some of our information we have, also don't have access to these things. If this is the process, because of how absolutely important these things are for world, I guess, stability, because of the kinds of secrets and the kinds of weaponry that certain nations hold, like ours, and others that maybe are affiliated with us. We go through all this trouble, but we don't go through any trouble to keep someone who's disgruntled about losing, who has proven that he's an enemy of America, and that he doesn't care about rules or rule of law, to just waltz out of there with a box. That's the process when a president leaves. One guy in the world can affect potential devastation because he was the former president. There's no processes in place to protect these things once someone is out of office. There's process to protect it when he's in office. I guess as soon as this guy says, I didn't lose, we go, okay, here's some boxes for you. All these things that we actually keep completely top secret, we'll just let you waltz out with them. Why is there no process to keep that from happening?
Jayar, why won't the norms protect us? It should just take norms. No, norms are only as good as the people that they govern, and these people are really bad. Yeah, we need laws and we need a culture of consequences when laws are broken. Unfortunately, we don't have that.
And by the way, sorry, John, even if you're a president that everyone just loved and did things on the up and up and brought prosperity to the country and everyone's doing great and there's not one person that can say a bad thing about you, keep that guy or woman from also taking those secrets away as well, because I don't want them having it either. I don't care who it is.
Obama doesn't get to have that stuff. Bernie doesn't get to have that stuff eventually. Maybe Bernie. Anyway, the confirmation that Donald Trump had nuclear documents has left us scrambling to figure out, so what exactly was it about? I mean, the only details we have at this point is that it has to do with nuclear readiness and theoretically is about another country, or at least one of the documents was. And so if you're Pakistan or India, and you've been like staring across the border at each other, details about the nuclear defenses of one of those nations would be quite valuable and sensitive from the point of view of the others. It could be about Russia, obviously. What sort of missile defense have they been working on? Do they have nuclear weapon designs that we didn't know about or publicly don't know about? Is it about China? Is it about another country that we don't even know is a nuclear power? Is it about Israel? Did he want to have the confirmation of the basically conventional wisdom we know that they have it, but they don't actually talk about it, nuclear program? I don't know. And then there's other stuff that's come out recently that maybe is a little bit closer to home for Donald Trump. Now, this isn't specifically about other countries, but we found out that back on December 16th, 2020, one of the last things Donald Trump did as president is that he signed the Space Policy Directive 6, which I think is how you kill all the Jedi. I'm kidding. Which set the goal of testing nuclear energy on the moon by 2027. So setting up nuclear power off on the moon. On January 5th, the day before the insurrection, he signed Executive Order 13972, which directed NASA, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Defense to study the cost and technical feasibility of using nuclear-powered spacecraft and satellites. They also had a directive to design and build micro-nuclear reactors that could be transported on trains, planes, or a typical tractor trailer. So that's perhaps ominous. Although I do have to say, all of this stuff, I'm much more comfortable with nuclear power on the moon, honestly. Like I think that there are designs that could work on the Earth as well. But if they're gonna be messing with this stuff, yeah, let's have it be out there. And let's also keep it real. The Biden administration also has embraced the idea of these very small reactors that could supply electricity in remote areas, especially to soldiers or following terrorist attacks or natural disasters. And sure, I mean, the fact that all these power grids have gone down so semi-regularly, we're on the verge of that happening here in California. It happens in Texas every like 6 months. I don't know, maybe it's not a bad idea, but I want more answers, Jayar. I want to know what this is about. How scared should we be?
Well, that's where we're gonna not get much information. Look, we got all these supporters of Trump and Trump himself talking about, well, you guys came in and you searched my place, you found all these documents I shouldn't have had. How dare you? You need to prove to me that you were on the up and up when you were taking documents back from me that I stole from the White House, that I illegally had in my possession, completely in a closet and in my dresser where anybody can run up and see it. They're demanding for more answers to why they're investigating them and taking back documents that he had no business having. And for some reason, a certain percentage of our country is going, yeah, we should totally find out why they're getting back classified documents. But no one is asking, hey bro, why did you have those classified documents? And when are we gonna do something about it? The demands are on the wrong side here. Where are the demands for arrest this guy?
You're wondering, where's the response gonna be? I'm gonna give you two different responses in one concise little segment. Let's have some fun with this. It's now been confirmed that Donald Trump did take nuclear documents. That has now been leaked. And so the right, which has been implying that the documents aren't a big deal, don't even worry about it, it's a nothing burger. Now it's a nuclear nothing burger. And so how are they gonna respond to it? Well, Steve Doocy, we gave credit to last week for being critical of Donald Trump, and he's actually gonna earn a little bit more credit in this.
When we first heard about this stuff, and we heard, well, maybe it's things like a note from Kim Jong-un to President Trump that he wanted to keep his hands on. But then, if true, this Washington Post report, highly classified documents at Mar-a-Lago that only a cabinet level officer or higher could even look at. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you should have in your post-presidential desk drawer.
Yeah, no, so I'm gonna give him credit, but not that much, because it's not like he's figured something out or he's really challenging the conventional wisdom. No, he's acknowledging that they would act this exact same way if it was Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Rashida Tlaib or whatever. It doesn't matter, you can't have that stuff, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to have that stuff. To continue to defend this guy as more and more evidence comes out makes you look awful. And sliding very smoothly into the category of looking awful was Marco Rubio, who you saw there on the side of the screen. It has now been confirmed they are nuclear documents. It has to do with nuclear defense of another country, maybe an ally, maybe an enemy. I don't know, but it doesn't look good. Is he gonna blink? Is he gonna flinch for even a second in defending the guy who mocked him so publicly month after month after month in 2016? Nope. Take a look at this.
Well, let's break this down. First of all, again, we really don't know, because let's go back and understand that all of this information is coming from one side in one place, and that is sources with knowledge of the investigation. Well, who are the sources with knowledge of the investigation? The FBI and the Justice Department, and they are leaking to the media. So generally, when there's an investigation by the FBI or the Justice Department, they're not even acknowledging there is an investigation, much less leaking. These people every single day are strategically leaking information that can't be rebutted, by the way, or in any way analyzed, for a reason. And that's politics, to influence the narrative.
So no, the fact that it's been confirmed. I mean, look, a week ago, he would have appeared on that show to be like, they haven't confirmed that it's about nukes. Everybody's freaking out. We don't know that it's about nukes. Well, now we know it's about nukes. We shouldn't forget about that either. Why? Because it's being leaked by people with knowledge of the investigation. Yeah, that's a good reason to freak out. He's not even implying there that it's untrue. He seems to understand that this is true information, but it's partisan. It's partisan to leak. Okay, I get it. I have empathy because I'm not a crazy right winger. I have empathy. It would be annoying if your job was to defend Trump and all this really damaging information came out. But as Jayar said earlier, I'm not gonna have that much sympathy for you when you've decided that your job is to defend an enthusiastic criminal. But the fact that the information has come out might be partisan. That does not make it untrue, and it doesn't make it any less scary. Jayar, what do you think about Rubio's defense?
Marco Rubio, man. Like I was gonna say shell of a man, but he never really was much of a fighter in the first place, which is why he got his ass handed to him all over the place in 2015 in the first place. Anyways, this low bar. First, you mentioned Ducey, and he goes, shouldn't he not have this stuff in his possession? The lowest bar possible. You have to ask that question in this country. Number two. Rubio is talking about we just don't know, and the Department of the Justice Department and all these investigators are not giving us all this information so we can have some rebuttals. Bro, this is an investigation. If they catch you with the marked dollar bills that were from a bank robbery in your house, and then they come in and find it because they were clued in on you possibly having it, or they caught you on security cameras running out of the bank after it was robbed, and they pull in the same dollar bills, and you go, well, listen, Judge, I haven't had a chance to have a rebuttal to these accusations about the things that I had in my house that were obviously things that I shouldn't have had in my house, and it's a crime for me to have them. Do you think any other regular person can go on TV and say, we just don't know? I mean, the Department of Justice and the authorities continue to have an investigation on me. Why is it that we accept this BS? Why is it we accept that they can say things like that and it's just normal? You're gonna have rebuttal to the law? A rebuttal to the law. What's your rebuttal to Donald Trump having tons of classified documents? Because first it was he doesn't have them. Then it was he did have them. Then it was that they planted them. Then it was that he declassified them. But then after that, but before it was partial, it was there. Then I gave them all back to you. Which one is it? Your rebuttals suck. They don't make any sense.
They don't make any sense. To use your analogy, it's like, and now they're leaking like the actual the numbers on the bills that he's alleged to have stolen, yes. And they only have those bills because they took them back from Trump. So, and how do I even rebut it? Okay, that's your issue. That's not my issue. That's a terrible position to be in. I will grant you that. Don't be in that position. Anyway, yeah, rebuttals are ridiculous.
They're leaking information every day. Do you know why we're talking about this every day? Because Donald Trump won't shut the F up about it every day. Every day. You know, you should tell us shut up about it, Marco Rubio. Tell Donald Trump to shut up about it. Because every time he talks, he incriminates himself. Don't blame the people who are watching. Blame the person that's talking.
Yeah, and while you're shutting up, Trump, maybe like for the sake of your allies, stop breaking the law, you crazy person. How many laws must you break? You got so many free ones. You got so many free ones.
Jesus, man.
Anyway, let's have just a little bit of fun to close off this segment, though. it's obviously a very serious issue, this FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago. It has gone nuclear. But their defense, Trump and his legal team, really seems to want to make this into a joke. We've got Donald Trump doing that. We're gonna get to that in one sec. But first, here is Alina Habba, one of his lawyers, responding to the damning revelation that he had all of these empty folders marked classified where we don't know where the documents are. Here's how she tried to defend that.
Amazing. At first, it was the codes to the nuclear weapons. Right. Now it's invisible classified documents. It could mean anything. I don't know. It could mean that they gave those documents to NARA and to the FBI prior, as we know, which they had done. It could mean there was nothing in them. It could mean they're invisible if you're, in their administration.
Okay, so she's sitting there, so you can't tell, but she's dancing at the same time, trying to come up with some way to defend it. Okay, so first it was the nuclear code. First of all, the leaks about the documents being about nukes never said that it was the nuclear codes, which, by the way, would have changed by now anyway. It is stupid to think that, it's hardwired. Got to keep that 3 where it is. Nobody thought that's what it was. It's a ridiculous aside. She puts forward one plausible explanation. Maybe the folders are empty because they gave all those documents back. Now, why exactly they would take the documents out of the folder to then hand it in and keep the folders makes no sense. Why do you want empty folders marked classified? But Donald Trump is a legit crazy person, so maybe that's the explanation. The idea that the documents are invisible, look, as a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, I like that as a possibility. Invisible documents, very cool concept. I don't think that's what it is here. And she says, this is what she said with a relatively straight face. There was never anything in them. Donald Trump took folders that were empty, held on to folders that were empty for 18 months that never had any documents in them. That's what she would have you believe Donald Trump did. Come on, Jayar, come on.
Nobody robs banks in these images that I always keep giving you guys of bank robberies. But the defense here, at least from her, I guess dancing defense, as you pointed out, is, yeah, you guys caught me with $80,000 that I stole from that bank, but I gave back $20,000 the first time you came. Why are you still bugging me? Oh, and sorry, the bands that were wrapped around those bills, I still have those. I gave you the money back, but I have the bands. That means there's no money in them. Why would you be after me for the bands that were around the dollar bill? Bro, you had information and documents that you were not supposed to have. That's the first thing. It should also be the last thing. Why are we breaking down whether or not you gave back 25% of them or not, or whether or not they had to come back 4 times to get the rest of it, or whether or not the folders that were holding the documents were still there or not, or whether or not they're on the floor, or if they're in the closet, or if they're on the shelf, or if they're in the drawer, or if they're in the ceiling. Who cares? You effing had them, beginning and end.
Yeah, you are 100% right.
Sense.
Yeah, look, we do a show every day, so we're gonna talk about and analyze all of the little developments that come from this. We'll continue to do that. The fundamental fact is that he broke the law dozens and dozens and dozens of times. He knowingly did it, and then he tried to obstruct the investigation. So never forget that. I'm gonna tweak your metaphor though. It's like they show up to the hideout and they find a bunch. There's a table, and it's just covered with the official government issue big bags with the dollar bill sign on it. There's no bills in it. Maybe the bills are invisible. Maybe I just wanted the bags with the dollar bill signs on them. But anyway, here is Donald Trump's attempt to turn the indisputable fact that he broke the law into a joke. He truthed. Not only did the FBI steal my passports in the FBI raid and break in of my home Mar-a-Lago, but it has just been learned through court filings that they also improperly took my complete and highly confidential medical file and history with all the bells and whistles that they found inside of my body. I'm kidding. At least they'll see that I'm very healthy, an absolutely perfect physical specimen. Plus personal tax records, illegal to take, and lawyer-client privilege information, a definite no-no, days of the Soviet Union. Does that mean that, you're liking the days? I don't understand. A perfect physical specimen. I will give him that. That's kind of funny. I do like that in the middle of it. it's all a bunch of lies, and it's lies to distract from the fact that he broke the law. But the idea that he's in perfect physical health, I think, is one of the funniest things a right winger has said in years.
Isn't that crazy? If you're having trouble with classified documents as former president that you hoarded in your house that you've been discovered, do you think you'd be thinking about whether or not the folks who collected all that didn't discover your Viagra prescriptions as well in your medical files? This is what he's concerned with. He's literally tweeting out or truthing out about his medical files, and it's embarrassing things that they might read about him versus him hoarding classified documents. I had to stop myself a couple times there, John.
Yeah,
him hoarding classified documents. If you're in this kind of trouble, would you be caring about your embarrassing documents from your doctor that says you're actually overweight, that we all know?
I agree. Heads up to the technical director. Be ready if Jayar does let an F-bomb slip, covered up with all the bells and whistles you can get. Anyway, with that said, we do have to go to our first break. When we come back, one of Trump's sort of most loyal lieutenants off there in right-wing media, a fellow grifter, may be on the verge of some legal consequences. We'll give you the details after this.
Little known fact, John. I'm sorry to jump into your intro. Those comments that you can't read, I probably wrote them.
You might have actually. Galifar says, by the way, we know that the real tab problem you have is that 90% of those tabs are Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones show tabs. No, I'm not doing. I mean, I watch breakdowns and stuff, but anyway. Okay, Ian, love your message. Thank you. That said, lots of news to get to, so why don't we jump into this? The last few weeks have been just such an amazing wealth of news, and it keeps on coming. Steve Bannon back in the news for the absolute best reason he could be. He is facing a state indictment in New York, and furthermore, will be turning himself in, surrendering, supposedly, although not according to him, tomorrow. We're right on the verge of it. And what'll happen then? Well, we're gonna try to figure it out. Now, he did respond, I would say, aggressively to this development. He put out this statement just days after being swatted 3 different times by deranged thugs from New York City, inspired by the Biden administration to assassinate me by police. The Soros-backed DA has now decided to pursue phony charges against me 60 days before the midterm election because War Room is the major source of the MAGA grassroots movement. Let's pause there for just a second. So first of all, if he's actually getting doxxed, I don't like that. Don't swat people, it's dangerous. The idea that Biden wants it to happen, when has Biden talked about Steve Bannon, honestly? When have most people talked about Steve Bannon recently? That's ridiculous. Every day in America is backed by Soros. I don't know if you knew that, but apparently it is true. And hold up. So investigating Trump months before an election is wrong, even though he's not a candidate. Now, investigating like a pundit is wrong? That's an attack against MAGA? How broad does this go? Is investigating MAGA voters now off limits? Like, where do they think the executive privilege ends, Jayar?
It's the January 6th insurrectionists. How dare they make this political right before a midterm election? Where are these rules? They like to talk about how this shouldn't be happening before a midterm election. If nothing else, this is the best time. Let's find out who the criminals and the surrounding criminals are in our elected officials, so we can determine who we want to keep there or not. This is the perfect time. Why is everything upside down on its head? This is when we do want to know.
It makes sense to me. He says this, the Southern District of New York did the exact same thing in August 2020 to try to take me out of the election. You're not in the election. You're not a politician. What are you talking about? Okay, I talk about politics. Hold up, Jayar, I'm gonna go rob somebody. You can't get me. I talk about the news. That's crazy. Not how it works. That's not how it works, dude. Anyway, he says, I am proud to be a leading voice on protecting our borders and building a wall. Oh, we'll return to the wall thing, buddy. Don't worry about that. The War Room show will be more vital, more intense, more urgent, and bigger this time. They're coming after all of us, not only President Trump and myself. I am never gonna stop fighting. In fact, I have not yet begun to fight. They will have to kill me first. So we're nonviolent. We don't advocate for violence. And I really do not, I hope that they do not have to kill him to get him to surrender. He's thrown down a hell of a gauntlet there though, Jayar. Jeez.
Steve Bannon thinks he's in a thriller action movie or something. He's stuck in 1989 when there was Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where they're rolling over and then they pull out a gun and shoot that guy and then take 3 shots to the shoulder and look. This guy thinks that they're coming to. No, actually, he doesn't think that. He wants people to think they're coming to kill him because he's this very important figure in the world of politics. Bro, get over yourself. You're an annoying figure and you had the ear of Donald Trump. That was the biggest problem. And you influenced him for more of his illegal and hateful activity while you were there before he calls you a fat, disgusting, unkempt slob and got rid of you. Remember that part? Remember that part, Steve Bannon? So we're talking about someone killing you. Donald Trump killed you publicly when it comes to your image and how you look like you smell. He pointed those things out when he got upset with you. But this tough guy who's like Rambo and you're gonna have to come and get me. What did he say to Donald Trump afterwards? Tough guy. This is all an act. There's a reason why these conservatives, especially these pundits, don't like Hollywood because they didn't make it there. They keep trying though.
Yeah, and now look, is there a reason why he is doing all of this ridiculous over dramatization? Yes, there is. He has to present himself as like, I am the shield defending you from these terrible corrupt forces. Why? To distract from the fact that he's just conning those people. He's not the shield. He's a leech on the body of the MAGA movement. He's just taking money from them. And that is why he is in trouble. This is a sort of state level version of federal charges that already went through that he got a pardon for. He's alleged, he and several others, to have defrauded contributors to a private $25 million fundraising effort called We Build the Wall, taking funds that donors were told would support construction of a barrier along the US-Mexico border. It didn't. They'd never intended to do that. They thought, you know what would be nice? To have millions of dollars and not really have to work to get it. So they're accused of taking the money for personal expenses like hotel and credit card bills, to buy jewelry, a golf cart, a luxury SUV. I think there was a boat in there too. Bannon allegedly profited by $1 million personally. And so, like, if you're in the MAGA movement, like, the dude stole literally $1 million from you. And they still watch his show, they still support him. They're gonna be rallying outside the courtroom. How dare you take this guy? He needs time. I still have $10. Let him rob me. Let him go. Let him go to rob me. That's what they're gonna be saying. The issue for him though right now is that while he got the pardon on the federal side, Trump could do that. Presidential pardons only apply to federal crimes and cannot prohibit state prosecutions. That is an interesting thing to bear in mind for both Steve Bannon as well as Donald Trump himself. But anyway, he is expected that he will turn himself in tomorrow, that he will not actually go down fighting. It won't be a Scarface moment or whatever. I think he's probably gonna throw on 7 or 8 shirts and haul his ass to the court. Probably what's gonna happen.
If in your declaration of having to go in and turn yourself into this rogue government that's doing you so wrong because you're a fighter for the American people, if you toss in there and watch The War Room every weekday from 9 to 10, that might mean that you're only here to try and promote yourself. It's weird, again, just like Donald Trump was talking about his medical records being taken when he's in the middle of an investigation about the highest classified documents that America has. If you're thinking about those little things and promoting your show instead, it's a pretty good indicator that's all you care about. Last week on my show, we talked about Gavin McInnes faking an arrest on his show. You know why? Because that will generate more clicks, more views, more money. This is all it is. It's a promotion, it's a self-promotion, it's a commercial, it's an ad. And he's putting out there going, they're coming to get me. And you know what? The only way you can help fight it is to buy some supplements. Like
100%.
T-shirts,
no,
hats, then I can get out of prison. Come on, bro. Come on. But again, like you said, these folks will show up at these types of things, will show up to defend him because they haven't run out of money just yet.
100%. So yeah, it's pathetic. It's like to do self-promotion when the focus should be on the news. Have I mentioned lately that I have a Patreon? Anyway, no, I'm kidding. No, it's just that's all. Like they are just that's all. That's what Rudy Giuliani is doing. That's Steve Bannon. Why does Marjorie Greene have a podcast? This is why she has a podcast. That's all it is. It's all. They don't care about any of this. It isn't about changing things or improving things, except the number of zeros in their bank account. A region in Scotland decided to do something that I think is pretty laudable. They wanted to set up a program to promote period dignity and to have a person in charge of this program to make sure that period dignity exists. The issue is that they're now receiving a lot of criticism, not because they wanted to do this, but because of who they chose to fill the role. You know what? Why don't we just show you and you could probably figure it out for yourself. Here is the individual that would be in charge of period dignity. It's Jason Grant. He's got a hell of a smile. He's also a man. So a lot of people had a bit of a problem. Like, not for all, I don't know Jason Grant. Maybe he really cares about period dignity. I don't know, maybe he aced the interview, but a lot of people did have a problem with it. And so when he was announced that he was gonna be the period dignity regional lead officer, people had an issue with that. It was met with incredulous and sometimes angry response, especially on social media. Former Wimbledon tennis champion Martina Navratilova posted on Twitter, "This is just effing ridiculous," adding, "Have we ever tried to explain to men how to shave or how to take care of their prostate or whatever? This is absurd." Wait, are there things I should know? I'm gonna message Martina. Anyway, no. But this is a thing that Scotland, I think, has already done a number of different things on in the past. I think they're moving in the right direction. There's this period dignity working group that works at multiple different levels, including inside of academia. I think that this is good. I don't know. What do you think? Are we being too hard? Is it about the results and not about the person who would be doing it, Jayar? What do you think?
Well, there's lots of stuff. There's a thing. Sure, anybody can be up on medical things or even like the way bodies work, even if you don't happen to have those parts. Sure, there's plenty of male doctors who are experts on women's health, right? Totally, we get it. The thing is when it comes to something like period dignity, is that what they're calling this? Mm-hmm. You want to have, this is based off something further than just, I think, medical terms or what you may assess. It's dignity. This is based off things that maybe people experience, maybe societal wise, maybe things that they have to use in order to personally take care of themselves. Now, if you've never had to personally take care of yourselves in those ways, those variations could change. And if you've never experienced it, that's where you may have some blind spots. So that's really all it is. So the anger is more of overlooking, and the irony of we're looking for dignity for women, but we're not gonna provide someone that leads this group, a woman that may have experienced it or understands experiences other women could have because they have those things. There's something you just can't teach, is experience in living with certain body parts. How do you teach that?
And look, we don't know for sure what his experience is. We're sort of speculating, but I think in a somewhat fair way. I am curious about the audience in the chat. I got the chat up right now. Yes or no, was it right to have this role be a man? And look, first of all, it's not up to me, specifically because I don't live in Scotland. I think that, look, men wanting to be a part of this is a good idea. If you had an office, I don't think having some of the positions be filled with men is a bad thing. It's just like, for me, it's the fact that it's the figurehead. Probably don't go in that direction. You had to have known. We did a story way back about a soul food festival, and they had like a poster to advertise it, and there was like 4 or 5 speakers or food experts, and every single one of them was white. And I just feel like you could have suspected that something was up. You probably could have avoided this issue.
Yeah,
anyway,
else,
with that,
it looks
final
really
thoughts.
bad.
It looks kind of bad. We'll see. And based on the responses I'm seeing so far, people aren't buying it. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna go to our second break. We come back. Dr. Oz probably would have preferred that the campaign not be about the topic we're gonna discuss when we come back, but don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody, we got two things to get to. It's so little time. Let's get ready for this. Long before Dr. Oz knew that he would become a grifting right-winger and try to enter the US Senate, he was making media appearances. And back in 2014, he appeared on the morning show, The Breakfast Club, and it got unfortunate. Take a look.
Okay, so he said, I can't stop smashing my cousin. We hooked up at a young age, and now in our 20s, she still wants it. No matter how much I want to stop, I always give it to her. Help me. Now, what advice would you give that person?
If you're more than a first cousin away, it's not a big problem.
Okay, so second cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? Because I knew that.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Because you
I'm from
smashed
the
it.
country.
Yes, sir.
Third cousins.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's all good. Because they say
No.
first cousins, you might end up with a kid with like Down syndrome or something.
Well, it's not that. So every family has genetic strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason we naturally crave people who are not so like us is because you just have to mix the gene pool up a little bit. So that if I have one gene for, let's say, hemophilia, which is a classic example, where you bleed a lot if you cut yourself. And I don't want to marry a cousin who has the same hemophilia gene because the chance of our child having both those genes is much higher.
Okay.
But for the vast majority of problems, that it's not an issue. But that's why children, girls, don't like their father's smell. Their pheromones will actually repel their daughters because they're not supposed to be together.
Right.
And so my daughters hate my smell.
Maybe you just smelled.
Yeah, I think they were bringing it back to the smashing, which I don't think we need to hear him talking about smashing that much. But if it's beyond first cousins, it's not a problem. Second cousins, smash away, says the good doctor. Maybe someday it'll be codified into legislation. Anyway, Jayar, it's just one hit after another with this guy. He's a goofball, and he should have known going into an election that some of the goofiness was gonna come out.
Yeah, we will say at least this was a resurfaced video. He didn't say this just now. But it seems like he's doing his best Dr. Drew impression. I remember Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla used to do a Love Line, I think is what it was. And people would call him with these crazy types of questions like this. And Carolla would make fun a little bit and joke. And Dr. Drew would give the medical approach and be very serious. And I'm wondering if that was the thought process. He's like, I'm on this radio show. They're talking about smash. I've never heard of that term before. And then goes to talking about the medical behind the real facts behind it. Well, you can smash your cousin as long as it's the second cousin, because he went to actual details there. Just kind of don't. Again, this is maybe before he had any thought of running for office. And maybe this is why you maybe want to review what you said and done and thought about and had a TV show for I don't know how long. You may have said other things that people can dig up later and go, what was this about? Which, by the way, has nothing to do with whatever he says he's going to do in office. So credit there, at least for people who may want to defend him on this. But what does he want to do in office? I don't think we have that answer either.
100%, yeah, and you gotta know your audience. I mean, maybe that stuff flies in New Jersey, but in Pennsylvania, I don't think they're gonna be a fan of it. I'm kidding. But anyway, yeah. Look, I think he is dangerous, less for what he was in 2014 than what he needs to be to succeed these days. He wasn't a MAGA person. He wasn't interested in that. The fact that he would enthusiastically cosplay this sort of radical insanity, that's way scarier than him thinking you can smash a second cousin or whatever. There's plenty of stuff in his past that you can also be worried about. The fact that he was a massive con artist, that's a big issue. This is just the latest con. But anyway, it's not the news cycle that this guy needs. I imagine Fetterman is gonna hit him on this. Well, first of all, he already tweeted yet another issue where Oz and I disagree. Fetterman on the record against cousin smashing. Let's be clear about that.
The way he's running this campaign, all the voters in Pennsylvania are gonna feel like his daughters and be repelled by him and his smell.
Yeah, I wish that pheromone thing worked both ways, because Ivanka has always seemed repelled by Trump. It just doesn't work the other way. Damn genes, they're wily creatures. Okay, with that said, why don't we move on to the second part of this in the D block? He's gonna have to wait for after the break. But Dr. Oz needs a viral moment. He needs something that his side can rally behind. And he doesn't have an actual agenda. He doesn't have anything to run on. He just wants to attack Fetterman, and he's not feeling like he's got to do it in an honest way. He's apparently been taken to using fake prisoners at his rallies, which is exactly what it sounds like, and equally crazy as it sounds. he's got these people who come to play the role of a felon and hold up signs to mock Fetterman at his things. And it's super over the top. Take a look at this. Dr. Oz is in fact paying people to pretend to be felons and hold signs. One of them wrote a caption to this saying, "Last night might have been the greatest things I've ever done in politics yet. I was hired by the Oz campaign to play the role of a felon supporting Fetterman. I can't believe how many idiots thought I was legit out of jail." Okay, so the idea is that not only, this isn't just a performative thing. He's saying we have successfully convinced people that felons who support Fetterman and are still wearing their outfits from jail for some reason, they're really out there campaigning for him. And we really are fooling these dumb people into supporting Oz based on lies. Great job. It's an amazing PR coup for the Oz campaign.
They're not very good at this, John. They're not good at this at all. I did an Oz story about him coming after Fetterman for his stroke yet again based off of debates, and he just did it in the most bumbling way. But here, he's bumbling, and you'll open up the fact that you're doing it fake, that you're faking this whole thing for a political hit on someone, right? Bro, the biggest thing you're in the news for is faking your trip to Wegner's or Wegmans or Wegmans and Regnans and Redners, whatever you don't know the name of because you're not from the state. You're a fake, and your crudité was the biggest name that's going around. No one knew what crudité was until this campaign. And you're gonna openly go and say, we're faking something else, you guys. Did you know that I also fake this too? Isn't it great? Vote for me now because I fake 4 things. When I get into office, maybe I'll fake that as well. This is a horrible approach. The only thing people would see is, oh, this is a stunt. Yeah. And if you're just joking, cool. But this is the wrong atmosphere to do it in because it looks fake.
Look, I'm gonna defend him only a little bit in saying that we often say we don't want politicians to be fake versions of themselves. We want them to be who they authentically are. And if he is anything, it's a massive liar. He's a big old liar. That's the only way that he's ever gotten anywhere in his life is by lying, by deluding people. And I like that he's sticking to his dishonest guns in this particular case. But also the final point I'll make before we close is he's basically doing all this saying that Fetterman wants to let inmates out. And Fetterman does want to let some inmates out, inmates who shouldn't be there. And this is the curse of a progressive candidate. When you want to do good things, have empathy, center it in your politics, the reactionary response to that is always going to make every little bit of societal progress seem like a dire threat. They're always going to do that. The Dems are being attacked for canceling student loan debt. The fact that they're dealing with climate change, doing the right thing will always be used to demagogue and demonize. And so it's already hard to get them to do it. And this makes it even more difficult. So credit to Fetterman for sticking to his guns, the actual compassionate ones. Anyway, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for first hour. So if you're listening on the podcast, first of all, thank you. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. If you're on the linear platforms as well, thank you as always. But if you're watching the full show, the aftermath is coming up after a short break. We've got updates on Hillary Clinton as well as animal news. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Jayar Jackson, I'll be back in just a few. Athena has been a member for 21 months, says, John, love the show and every day is the best because you have such great guests every day. Can't pick just one. I'm sorry, you must. Choose only one, but choose wisely. Is Marco Rubio actually down by 5 points? That's what Ernesto says. Can you imagine if Rubio lost? Oh my God, that's not only devastating to the Republican effort to take over the Senate, but like, Rubio has just made such a mockery of himself, the deference to the MAGA wing.
That'll be so
I can't wait.
It's one of those things I don't want to talk about because it'd be so great. I didn't want to mess it up.
Exactly. Let's not jinx it. Dystopian Dragon says in a super chat, Donald Trump has the right to remain silent, but not the ability to STFU. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.